Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is Friday, the 9th of August 2024. Our Independence Day is just around the corner, just a few days, 5 days before it happens. Nevertheless, we've got lots to discuss with you today. So without further ado, this is the lineup for today's show. We'll begin with the Palestine-Israel war, and a war that has now entered its 308th day. Although on the one hand, Israeli forces launch new offensive on Khan Yunis and people are being told to displace from one place to the other, and this is a displacement mechanism that has been going on since the last few months. So the people are also growing more and more weary and tired, but that hasn't stopped the Israelis from butchering them, from killing them, from injuring them. The numbers are 39,699 who've perished so far, and around 91,722 who have been injured so far. And this is just a preliminary number because the actual numbers are much, much higher. Also, leaders of Qatar, Egypt and US have invited Israel and Hamas to resume the ceasefire talks on the 15th of August as the regional tensions are growing, and we all know about those tensions. This and more will be discussed in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, the records that were broken by Arshad Nadeem, 92.97 meters, and he says he wants to go even beyond that. Well, this is going to be our second segment. Thirdly, we'll be talking about the International Day for the Indigenous People that is being observed today across the world to highlight the problems that the indigenous people face across the world. This year's theme is protecting the rights of the indigenous people in voluntary isolation and initial contact. Finally, we'll be talking about Japan that has issued its first mega quake warning. Now, we all know that Japan is very vulnerable when it comes to the earthquakes, and it has had lots and lots of earthquakes that have caused casualties, but it has also installed the necessary mechanisms so as to reduce the casualties to a maximum. Now, Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has cancelled a 4-day trip to Central Asia after the scientists have warned that Japan should prepare for a possible mega quake. Will it happen? Won't it? That's a huge question on the minds of so many Japanese. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns the situation in Gaza, day 308. We've been joined by two guests. Let me introduce them one by one. Both are online for a change. Osama Muhammad Nazzal, our Palestinian journalist friend, joins us from Jenin. Osama, thank you very much to have joined us. And our second guest is Brigadier Shahid Jagir Saab, a guest, a friend who joins us after a long hiatus as well. Brigadier Shahid Saab, thank you very much to have joined us as well. Let's begin with Osama. Osama, Israel agrees to resume the Gaza truce talks on the 15th of this month, which is, I think, a Wednesday or a Thursday. The US, Egypt and Qatar released a joint statement that calls on both Israel and Hamas to resume the negotiations over ceasefire and hostage release. We all know about the ceasefire deal, the 3-point deal that Joe Biden has been pushing forward since quite some time. Anthony Blinken says the ceasefire agreement is in the final stage. Emmanuel Macron, the French leader, he says on a post on X that he backs this effort to broker a deal. And the EU also said it joins Egypt, Qatar and the US for their call for concluding this peace deal. Could an early finalization of this deal eventually happen? If it does, will it dissipate the regionalization of the whole conflict that we have been seeing and the fears that are emanating in many, many people of whether, how and would this war escalate?
Thank you very much for having me first, Mr. Omar. Really, if the United States were serious about ceasefire and stopping the Israeli war on the Palestinians, mainly in the Gaza Strip, it would do that by a telephone call to the Israeli occupation prime minister. But the United States, I think, is buying time and not more than that. You know that Israel is coordinating with the United States every action that it takes, whether against the Palestinians or in the region. And no one believes that Israel committed its crime and assassinated the head of Hamas Politburo, Ismail Haniyeh, in the Iranian capital of Tehran without coordinating this crime with the American administration. That is impossible. So the United States could have stopped the Israeli war on the first or on the second day of that war. But it took the United States 10 months just issuing statements and coordinating meetings. And by the end, Israel killed the head of the Palestinian negotiating team with a clear message that Israel is not concerned about negotiations and about calm and peace. And all that the Israeli prime minister is interested in is killing more Palestinians and also widening this war to have a regional war. United States
Got Osama, I just like to stop you here. You know, the finance minister also, Bezalel Smotrich, has also voiced his disapproval for this move for a ceasefire. And we all know, as you yourself talked about, the reaction of Benjamin Netanyahu, that he is not interested in that, but he wants to kill all the so-called Hamas people. And he said he will not stop until all of Hamas is defeated, in other words, killed. So in this case, what is the eventuality of such a ceasefire deal? Will it happen? Won't it happen? Is it just a political move because the US elections are underway?
The Israeli occupation and the Zionist regime is using Hamas as a pretext for its murderous crimes against all the Palestinians. My brother, while we are talking now, I received a message that one of our colleagues in Palestine TV was killed by the Israeli warplanes in Gaza right now, a reporter working for Palestine TV and another Palestinian journalist working for Al-Aqsa TV. These people are journalists and they have nothing to do with Hamas movement and the men of Hamas. But Israel is targeting all the Palestinians in Gaza, and all the international reports show that more than 70% of the victims are children and women. Most of the victims are civilians. So Israel is committing a genocidal campaign against all the Palestinian people with one aim: to have Gaza empty of its indigenous people, of its Palestinian people, and to have more settlements, just like what Israel is doing now in the occupied West Bank, building more settlements for Jewish settlers at the expense of the indigenous people of the land, the Palestinians. So I think that Netanyahu, as long as he has the American support and as long as he sees the American warships and the American military coming to the Middle East in order to provide the protection to Israel and to defend Israel and to encourage it to commit more crimes and to violate the sovereignty of the regional countries, I don't think that Netanyahu is going to stop this war, and he is going to use these negotiations just to buy more time and to kill more Palestinians. They have no other goal, only killing more Palestinians in Gaza.
All right, Brigadier Shahid Jagir, let's come to you. Kamala Harris says she will not support an arms embargo on Israel. Her national security advisor has confirmed this a day after she was, of course, heckled by pro-Palestinian protesters in a rally in Detroit. Phil Gordon says Ms. Harris has been clear that she will always ensure Israel is able to defend itself against Iran and Iran-backed terrorist groups. Your comment on this? Does that eventually mean what it means, what Osama has just been saying as well, that the US will support Israel come what may?
Thank you very much, Khalid Sahab. First of all, I'm very obliged for inviting me. You see, the comments of Kamala Harris, the Vice President of USA, is evident. One, from the point of view that she is running for the presidentship of America. I don't think under the present environment she will be able to do anything which is contrary to the Jewish population over there. One. Second, that the Middle East foothold of Americans, after having gone through Iraq, Syria, and now the Jordan, now the Lebanon, they are increasing, the Israelis are increasing their footprints of war in the lower part of, the upper part of the Arabian Peninsula. One is that. Second, if you see that America is the biggest supporter of the Israel war because it's the one which is supplying arms, ammunition, intelligence, and to the Israel armies. Despite the fact that there have been demonstrations all over Europe and especially in America, and all these brutalities which the Netanyahu has done in the U.S. Congress has invited him for a state address, which is very surprising. That despite all these, instead of nominating him for the war crimes, they have invited him as a guest for. So I don't think that any of the policy of the present American setup will change. One, for the reason that they need the Israeli support to have grip and keep the Middle East in turmoil. Second, with the election coming, they will not be able to do anything contrary to Israelis' wishes, keeping in view the election which are coming and the high number of Jewish people there in US, especially in New York and Capitol Hill area. I absolutely, and this cannot go on because all the humanity rules have been violated by the Israel. Now, 63% of the infrastructure of the Palestinians have been destroyed.
Just look at the people who've been killed and the injured, and the Lancet even says that the actual number who've been killed will be surpassing 186,000 because there are so many bodies of the people who are buried under rubble that has yet to be found. Add to that the misery in terms of lack of proper food, medicine, health facilities, and water, and so on, and the diseases that are slowly and steadily creeping amongst the people, diseases like polio, diseases like hepatitis, and so on and so forth. Osama, let's come to you. Israel launches a new offensive in Khan Yunus. 15 people are killed and 30 are injured. Euro-Mediterranean Human Rights Monitor says that the army has intensified its policy of bombing schools used as shelters. They say that 79 Palestinians have been killed and 143 injured, mostly women and children in these shelters as well. The Committee to Protect Journalists talks about 111 journalists and media workers killed since the start of the war. Let's add the two that you've just talked about, that makes it 113. The Israeli military also carries out attacks in southern, central and northern Gaza as we speak, and we've to discuss the casualties in the very beginning. When will all of this end, in your point of view?
Not end. It will not end, Omar, as long as there is no strong position from. I don't want to talk about the position of the international community because now we are sure that the United States is not going to change its position, at least during this time, as they have the elections campaigns now, and they are busy now with their domestic issues. But this war could stop only when the Arab states and the Muslim states stand in one voice and say to the Europeans and to the Americans that they have to press the Israeli occupation government to end its war on Gaza. I think the people mainly have a lot of cards that they can play, but regrettably they are not using any of these cards. For example, if they raise the prices of oil, I'm talking about Gulf states, that would shake off the international oil markets, and this will force the Americans to act seriously and use their power in order to stop the Israeli war. But as long as we have only statements and communiques and only words without deeds, the Israeli occupation is not going to stop. You are talking about extremist terrorists. You're talking about the Minister of Finance of Israel, Smotrich, who said 2 days ago, it's okay to starve 2 million Palestinians in Gaza to death. Ben Gvir, the head of the Home Security in Israel, is calling for taking all the Palestinians out of their land or killing them all in Gaza. So these people are not thinking of calm and peace and of ceasefire without feeling a pressure from their sponsors and their patrons, mainly the Americans. And the Israelis here care about their pockets, about money, and about their economy. As long as they have no restrictions and no threat from the outside world, they are going to continue with their ethnic cleansing policy against the Palestinians.
I totally agree with you on that, but this has to end, and this has to end soon before something drastic happens and this escalates into a major regional conflict as well. Brigadier Shahid Jagir Sahab, ambassadors from several Western countries have pulled out of an event in Japan today to commemorate the victims of the bombing of Nagasaki after the mayor refused to invite Israeli officials. The quote, the important text here is, because he refused to invite the Israeli officials, that is why many Western countries have also not attended this event. Tens of thousands of people, we all know, were killed when the US dropped an atomic bomb in 1945. Israel has also revoked the diplomatic accreditation of 8 Norwegian diplomats working with the Palestinian Authority, says it's a response to the country's recognition of Palestine's statehood. Then the EU's foreign policy chief also condemns Israel's move against Norway, saying it contradicts the spirit of the Oslo Accords. Do you feel that global geopolitics are changing as a result of the Israel conflict, and more countries are getting involved directly or indirectly?
To some extent, I would say you see. The Palestinian leadership went to China for discussion, and immediately after that, you see the Palestinian Hamas leader was killed. Immediately after that, the Hezbollah's commander was killed. As far as the geopolitics is concerned, if you read the book written by the pundit of US foreign policy, the American policy in the Middle East would be to keep Middle East in turmoil. If you want to be, and you see this policy being implemented in the present time after Iraq. Iraq and Syria, Lebanon is in turmoil, and now they want to embroil the Iran also into the war, because they have committed such an offense of killing the Hamas leader on the Iranian soil, which is against all the diplomatic norms and all the social norms of the society that we live in. So it shows that there are chances that this war may become a global war. If the sense
against all odds, Brigadier Shahid Jagir Sahab, I really hope against all odds it does not happen. Final question to you, Osama. War of words between Hezbollah and Israel intensifies. Hezbollah says its attacks on Israeli military sites are in support of the Palestinians in Gaza. Israeli military says it has attacked the headquarters of Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, as well as quote-unquote terrorist infrastructures in the Ash-Shab area. Then we add to that what is happening with the Houthis as well, the conflicts that are happening, and of course the whole crux of the matter is that both the Hezbollah and Houthis want the war against Palestine to end, and they will end as well on their side. But this is not what Israel wants. What do you foresee on this front? Do you feel that, and also add to it what happened in Iran with Ismail Haniyeh? Do you feel that the whole of this combined and the reactions that came immediately afterwards will lead to some kind of gravity of the situation intensifying in the coming days or in the coming hours?
Look, the strategy that the Israeli occupation government has is to be the master of the Middle East. Israel wants to run the show in the Middle East, and before the 7th of October, all people know that Israel was expected to sign a normalization agreement without solving the cause of the Palestinian people. And we also, when the Israeli Prime Minister raised the Middle East map at the General Assembly of the United Nations, empty of Palestine, which means that Israel wants to have normal relations with the states and to have or to be the first economic power in the region and the master of the region without giving back any of the Palestinians' rights. So Israel feels that the existence of these groups like Hezbollah, the Houthis, and other parties in the Middle East who reject the Zionist regime and the Zionist project in the region are a threat to its plans and to its colonial projects. That's why it is targeting Beirut and it is targeting Yemen and other regions in the Middle East in order to get rid of them and implement its colonial scheme and become the only player in the Middle East without withdrawing from 1 inch of the occupied Palestinian territories. That's what is Israel working on. It wants to change all the geopolitical situation in the Middle East and to control all the resources of the Arab world and the Middle East in general without having any competitive military power in the region.
All right. Thank you very much, Osama Muhammad Nazzal, joining us from Jenin. Thank you so much to always be there for us, to give us the latest updates as far as the situation in Palestine is concerned. And Brigadier Shahid Jagir Sahib, it was so good to see you and hear from you after a very long time. Hope to get you back on the show pretty soon. Thank you very much to both of my guests for this segment. Let's come to our second story, and that concerns the phenomenon. I mean, I have to call it that. That is Arshad Nadeem. Whether you are into sports or you aren't, last night most of Pakistan was glued to it because you read a new Olympic record and a first for Pakistan as far as athletics is concerned that Arshad Nadeem had, which led him to here. 2018 Asian Games bronze medal, 2022 Commonwealth Games gold, 2023 World Athletics Championship Budapest in Hungary, he gets the silver, and now he gets the gold. He was also in Paris a few days back, in which he also had gotten another medal for another competition as well. And to discuss not just this feat that Pakistan has seen, the whole world has seen, and in fact all the major newspapers across the world are highlighting this as Pakistan's first goal after so many decades. But Pakistan is most of all proud of its star, that is Arshad Nadeem. We've been joined by two guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. In the studios, we've been joined by my dear friend and colleague from PTV World who loves sports much more than I do. I can, tell you that very frankly. Thank you so very much, Haqqani, Ahson Haqqani, to have joined us. I had in the name section, I had the name of another person of your family put on. But Ahson, thank you very much to have joined us.
It's a pleasure to be here on this very momentous occasion where Arshad Nadeem has become the pride of Pakistan.
Oh yes,
in the record books, in the Olympics for Pakistan, and it's going to inspire the younger generation.
24 hours back, did anybody in Pakistan have the faintest of idea that this could happen? Before that, before your answer, I'll have to also introduce my second guest, Inam Sahib. He's the president of the POA Athletes Commission. Inam Sahib, thank you very much to have joined us as well.
Shukriya ji, thank you so much.
Inam Sahib, just wait a second. I just was asking Ahson, 24 hours back, in Pakistan or across the world or in India, for the last of all places, did people have the faintest of idea that Arshad Nadeem will be not only clinching the gold but also be creating a new Olympic record?
When you talk about Arshad Nadeem, people were anticipating a medal, not the gold medal, not the Olympic record being broken. When you talk about Arshad Nadeem, it's a story that should be told to the new generations, how this guy from Mia Channu came up to be the biggest star in the Olympics. And we saw that in Tokyo 2020 when he ranked 5th. And on the other hand, Neeraj Chopra,
he had the gold
gold medal. And people in India also love Arshad Nadeem, and everybody is very joyous. I was doing the late night transmission on Arshad Nadeem late night, and I was over the moon.
As we all
the Prime Minister was over the moon.
Yes.
The President was over the moon. Congratulatory messages from all over Pakistan.
Across the board. Inam Bhatt Saab, I have to come to you. No central contract, no foreign coaches, no demand to increase monthly salary, no international leagues, no beverage brand, no banks multi-million rupee advertising contracts, no proper technical support, no proper javelin facility, no excuses, just a true champion, a lion's heart, the determination of a champion. His javelin pierced through our hearts last night when he created so many records, and we were all proud like anything. Tonight, of course, last night he walked away with the gold medal, but I think it was all of Pakistan that walked away with the gold medal. What is your take on the phenomenal success of Arshad Nadeem? How would you categorize him? How do you see his rise and his eventual, feat that happened last night?
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। जी बिल्कुल, अरशद ने जो कारनामा सर अंजाम दिया है उसकी तो कोई मिसाल नहीं है, और बहुत कम लोग हैं जिनको इतना यकीन था अरशद ये काम कर सकता है, और अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह मैं उनमें से एक हूँ, क्योंकि अरशद ने ये अब नहीं, उसने ये 2022 की जो कॉमनवेल्थ है उसमें ही दिखा दिया था कि वो कितनी उसकी कैपेसिटी है। उसमें उसने 90 मीटर का थ्रो फेंका और उसी वक्त से अंदाजा हो गया था कि अरशद जो है ना वो पाकिस्तान के लिए गोल्ड जीत सकते हैं ओलंपिक में, और बिल्कुल उसने वो किया। और इसमें बहुत बड़ा उसका पैशन है, इसमें बहुत बड़ा उसका जो माइंड सेट है ना वो बहुत जबरदस्त था, क्योंकि ओलंपिक में जाने से पहले हम इकट्ठा ट्रेनिंग कर रहे थे, तो उसमें भी बेशुमार दफा हमारी आपस में डिस्कशन होती है, तो उसके जब भी उससे बात होती थी तो एक ही चीज थी, ओलंपिक गोल्ड, इनाम भाई ओलंपिक गोल्ड। और हम दोनों जब आपस में मिलते थे तो एक दूसरे को इसी तरह एप्रिशिएट करते थे कि यार ओलंपिक गोल्ड। तो ये वो माइंडसेट है कि जिसको लेकर वो यहाँ से गया, और जब फिर उसने परफॉर्म किया तो फिर बाकी तो स्टोरी है जो पूरी दुनिया ने देखी है।
बिल्कुल, दैट इज सो राइट। Coming back to Ahson.
That's the power of manifestation. When you talk about gold medals every single time to your compatriots and saying, hey, gold medal, that's the power of manifestation. He manifested it and the gold glory came his way.
He was saying that, and I read in so many newspapers that when he held the javelin in his hand, it was as if, the javelin said just, it had a power of its own, and he knew somehow
the prayers of all Pakistan was behind him, the Muslim Ummah was behind him, but other than that, the fact remains he changed his technique, and that was shown in the 2022 Commonwealth Games when he secured the gold, and then 2023 he secured a silver. That was the World Games. This time Neeraj Chopra, who was eyeing for the gold medal, was the reigning Olympic champion. He beat him, and Neeraj couldn't even reach 90 meters.
Yes, that's
Neeraj
true.
still hasn't reached 90 meters. When you look at Arshad Nadeem, he's reached 90 meters in the Commonwealth, and now 2 throws both above the 90 meters, one around 91 point something, and the other one, the Olympic record, 92.97.
But it brings me to the 2008 Norwegian track and field athlete Anders Thorkildsen, who had 90.57 meters, and that record has also now been broken by Arshad. Now, I will quote
around 15 years in the making.
Yes,
let's hope Arshad Nadeem's record stays there for a longer time.
Ahson, he said something, and I'd like to quote that. He said, "My technique has changed a bit. I have worked on my technique." This is what you were just saying. It has gotten better now, and because of that, I have succeeded in making the mark here. He also says he's looking to go beyond his 92.97 mark.
Because the world record stands at 97.
Yes, and that is what I think he's aiming to break in the next Olympics. But what I'd like to ask from you is, what worked in his favor this time in the Olympics?
I think it was the change in technique. He had a shoulder surgery, he had a knee surgery, he was recovering from that. And then making sure that when you're playing with people like Neeraj Chopra, they are training outside of the country, Netherlands, Amsterdam, those were the playing grounds for them. The fact remains that Arshad Nadeem secured a place in the international games. That gave him more exposure.
True.
Through that exposure, there always comes a time when you improve, and through dedication and hard work, he reached the gold medal, and now he's the pride of Pakistan, and we're all really happy. The first ever individual gold medal for Pakistan. 76 years.
Exactly. But nevertheless, better late than never, as we say.
Absolutely. Much more to come. He's an influence now.
Inshallah.
An inspiration for all the young crowds over there.
Inshallah.
I'm pretty sure people didn't know about javelin before this gold medal.
And now they're all going to know about it.
And now all the sports shops would be like, get me the javelin.
True. Inam, but sir, Arshad Nadeem was sponsored by PTCL in the past, by WABDA, because he has worked there as well. There have been instances when local communities and villagers have also contributed for his expenses, and he was also financed by Pakistan's National Sports Board for these Olympics. This said, do you feel that our sponsors have a responsibility, now that we've seen the feat that he has achieved, to divert their attention also to athletics and other forms of sports as well, and to contribute more towards their training and help them achieve feats such as that what we saw last night by Arshad Nadeem?
जी बिल्कुल, बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है. मैं तो काफ़ी देर से, मतलब अगर पिछले 7-8 साल से देखें तो मैं तो इस चीज़ पर बहुत ज़्यादा जोर दे रहा हूँ कि जब तक ये प्राइवेट कंपनीज और प्राइवेट अदारे आगे नहीं आएंगे, क्योंकि एज अ कम्युनिटी हम सब का हमें अपना एक हिस्सा डालना है. गवर्नमेंट के आपको पता है हालात जैसे भी होते हैं, लेकिन वो जितना भी कर रही है वो अपना हिस्सा डाल रही है. तो अब ये हमारे एलीट लोगों को चाहिए, अब ये हमारे जितने भी सनतकार हैं उनको चाहिए कि वो अपना हिस्सा डालें. बहुत खुशाइंदा है कि जैसे यूपी ने अर्शद को सपोर्ट किया, तो इस तरह की जो दीगर कंपनी है उनका आगे आना बहुत जरूरी है. तो ये एक जो मुकम्मल पजल का एक ये जो पार्ट है, ये बहुत मिसिंग है कि हमारे जो इंडस्ट्री लेवल है वो इतना सपोर्ट नहीं करती. तो अब टाइम है कि हम कि बहुत सी कंपनीज को आगे आना चाहिए, अर्शद को सपोर्ट करना चाहिए. और इन सब चीजों के साथ साथ अब हुकूमत को भी और हमारी बाकी कंपनीज को भी ये देखने की जरूरत है कि अर्शद जैसे बेशुमार टैलेंट हमारे पास मौजूद है, बेशुमार हमारे पास हीरे मौजूद है जिनको तराशने की जरूरत है. तो अब हम एक एक दो खिलाड़ियों को पकड़ लें, एक एक दो खिलाड़ियों को सपोर्ट करें, ताकि हम आने वाली ओलंपिक में अर्शद के साथ साथ कई अर्शद पैदा करें, ताकि एक मेडल के साथ साथ कई मजीद मेडल भी आए.
I agree completely with you, Inam, but Sabah, you say that we need to have more of an involvement of the government and all the international companies that are present in Pakistan to support all the new talent that is present in Pakistan, not just in one or two sporting fields, but in other fields such as javelin throw, such as athletics, so that we can have more and more Arshad Nadeems participating in the next Olympics. And we should also be supporting Arshad Nadeem with more and more sponsorships. This is, I understand, a very step that I hope will happen in the next weeks now, once Arshad Nadeem comes back, and I'm sure that Pakistan has a rousing welcome as far as that is concerned. Thank you very much, Inam Bhatt Sahab, to have joined us. Ahson.
Yes.
Let's come a little bit to the reaction by the government, because I'd like to highlight that the Law Minister tables Nazir Sahab tables a resolution to pay tribute to Arshad Nadeem. Highest civilian award is going to be given to him. A resolution has been passed to that effect.
Of Pakistan.
Yes. In the National Assembly session today, the Speaker paid glowing tributes to Arshad Nadeem. The National Assembly members honoured him. Khaja Asif said on the occasion, and this is where I'm coming, he said the government should provide patronage to players, quote unquote. What should be the criteria in your point of view to be set up to provide patronage to players such as Arshad Nadeem and those who are the emerging talent in Pakistan?
Right. So when we talk about these players who come from downtrodden areas like Arshad Nadeem has, you've already mentioned that his father gone to the villages to bring some funds so that he could travel internationally and get the exposure. There was one time where the player Arshad Nadeem himself appealed to the government that he doesn't have funds to acquire a javelin for the javelin throw. That's where the
that was highlighted by international media as well.
Absolutely, and that is where the government came in. And now the government, as you said, WABDA, and then PTCL, they're sponsoring him. The involvement of international MNCs should also be there. I mean, I couldn't name one MNC, but they're sponsoring cricketers.
True.
So it's about time that you pay some tribute.
And you go above and beyond, sports is just not relegated to one.
Give some attention to the athletes who are individual athletes, who are going through leaps and bounds to achieve the gold greatness.
Look at the example yesterday.
Absolutely. And when you talk, just as Inam was mentioning, more has to be done so that those tiny places like Mia Channu and other small cities where there is talent needs to be polished up. And those children are there. We have a youth bulge, and the youth bulge needs inspirational athletes just like Arshad Nadeem.
true. Khaja Asif Saab also says, Ahson, that sports organizations must be revamped. What needs to be done in that context as far as promotion of sports on local, national, regional, school, college levels is concerned, and the revamp of sports organizations is concerned?
I think the college and school levels is doing a pretty good job. They've got their regional and departmental tournaments as well. It used to be back in the day that it used to happen far more because of the budgetary constraints. They've stopped it now. But then if people like Arshad Nadeem are going in, making sure they represent Pakistan and coming up with a medal, it's going to make sure that those departments also stay focused and give the chances to the athletes. It's been there for such a long time. All the athletes are either on a job basis. We've seen the cricketers acquiring some jobs from different organizations as well. They have a monthly stipend. And the funds are given for their the whole regime that they go through. The funds are given for the traveling expenses. That is the Pakistan Olympic Committee that's given Arshad Nadeem those funds. So things are being done. Arshad Nadeem is there because something helped him over here in Pakistan. It's not just no credit. I can't take credit out from Arshad Nadeem's efforts.
Yes.
He made a lot of efforts, but saying that the government didn't help, the government actually did help, and we support Arshad Nadeem and all the athletes just
exactly,
like that.
but I feel that we need to look for all the talent that is present in Pakistan, the emerging talent that is just like Arshad Nadeem. You know, Arshad Nadeem is just an example of those who have the passion to reach the top. And there are so many other people who have the same passion, the same zeal, and are still working in small cities, in small towns of Pakistan. I think we need to unearth
the exposure.
those.
There's a lack of exposure. When you talk about javelin, just as I mentioned, 90% of the children wouldn't know what javelin is. But they'd know what cricket is. They'd know what football is. So there has to be exposure in the field of athletics, all in all, track and field. So this was the track and field's field part that had the javelin throw. Similarly, we've got short putts, we've got long jumps, we've got 100 meters, 200 meters, 400 meters. We need to come up with athletes. And
I don't think we have a dearth of athletes. I think we have a dearth of opportunities to give them. This is what needs to be given to those.
Absolutely. Exposure, that's how the exposure
and
counts.
Facilities, exactly.
And facilities. And the most happiest part about this is the mothers of both the players, Neeraj Chopra and Arshad Nadeem.
That we'll talk in the last, but before that I'd like to understand the MQM. I have to mix this with politics because
everybody's happy,
everybody's happy across the board. One of the MNAs from MQM, Mustafa Kamal, says in the National Assembly today that Arshad Nadeem is an inspiration for the youth. I think our youth, that you yourself said in the budget, you said that we know this is an example for the youth of Pakistan. How important is it for us also, whether it be the media or other segments of the society, to highlight examples such as that of Arshad Nadeem to for the youth, to just tell them, where there's a will, there's a way.
And he's now a legend. Make sure the legend lives for a longer period of time. I mean, it's been since 1947 that we ever acquired a javelin throw gold. So make sure the Arshad Nadeem remains the legend, becomes a mentor later on in his career, and comes up with new people and new faces in the specific field event or any other sport as well. So a lot needs to be done. When people, it's very nice that everybody is acknowledging the fact that we're really happy and we're congratulating, but a lot needs to be done from their part as well.
All right, coming back to Arshad Nadeem, we all know he finished 5th in Tokyo, then of course came his rise, and you said he changed his technique as well.
Yes.
And that is what led to him taking the gold. Maybe partly, maybe also the fact that
I think he took the gold twice because he was over the 90-meter mark twice, once in his second throw and in his last throw.
What is next in your point of view for Arshad Nadeem, and what needs to be done now that he has proven to the world and to Pakistan and to the Pakistani people that he has achieved what many haven't been able to in the last decades?
Let me explain this. When you talked about Arshad Nadeem and making the second 92.97 meter throw, people were like, oh, it's going to be a fluke. He proved it wrong. The last one went 91. Similarly, when he won the Commonwealth Games 2022 gold medal, people were saying, oh, Neeraj Chopra wasn't in the games. He didn't participate. That's the reason why Arshad Nadeem came on top. Now they don't have a reason to complain. He's an Olympic record holder. So just not for Pakistan, inspiration for all javelin fans all over the world. That's the sort of inspiration that you should need. And learn from Arshad Nadeem, just as Inam mentioned, he was manifesting the gold medal altogether.
Yes.
The power of manifestation is very strong. Albert Einstein says it's a make-believe
And you saw
world.
the scenes, post when he made the round and he had the Pakistani flag
And
draped
so
on him.
humble.
Yes.
He was so humble. If you see the celebrations of Neeraj Chopra shouting this, that, whatnot, he was very humble.
Yes.
He was actually calm and cool and collected.
And
That's
also
how-
very emotional.
Absolutely. That's a given. I mean, Pakistan
Yes.
on the biggest stage.
God, I mean,
Gold medal.
it just happened and we all were just, dumbstruck in front of the television screens.
I mean,
this
we
happened
knew we
once
might
and then we
get a
happened
medal.
again. And then he, achieving the feat of a gold is one thing. Achieving a new Olympic record is another feat altogether.
Absolutely. I think he was shocked himself.
So
I mean, the very first throw was a foul. So considering that coming into that, and then I heard some Indian commentators as well saying that, oh, he looks very shocked after his first foul, doesn't know what he's going to, he's carrying the whole burden of shoulder of the whole Pakistani nation. And then he struck 92 and they were all shocked as well.
True. But one thing I saw, a lot of people in the Indian media also praised Arshad Nadeem.
Yes.
But unfortunately, the Indian Prime Minister, when he talked about the medal of Neeraj Chopra, did not mention at all Arshad Nadeem. He just said, you are so proud of Neeraj Chopra to have achieved it.
That has to do with the RSS ideology.
But
I
of
can't
course,
say much
but
about
anyways, I'll end with something very interesting that you were pointing towards. But let's go towards the last two stories before I come to that. The International Day of World's Indigenous People is being observed today. This year, the theme is protecting the rights of indigenous people in voluntary isolation and initial contact, highlighting the need for their survival that is crucial to the protection of our planet while also protecting cultural and linguistic diversity. The Palestinians are also indigenous people in their land and they are not being protected. So maybe that is a sign for the countries that are under the umbrella of the UN to do something about it. Nevertheless, globally around 200 indigenous peoples live in remote forests of different countries, whether it be Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, India, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea or others. They have long sought recognition of their identities, the way of life and rights to traditional land territories. The day also recognizes the unique cultures, languages and traditions of these people and serves as an call to action for the governments and organizations to uphold their rights. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, let's take you to Japan, where the Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has cancelled a 4-day trip to Central Asia after the scientists have warned that Japan should prepare for a possible mega quake. The weather agency says a huge earthquake was more likely in the aftermath of a 7.1 jolt that had hit the south on Thursday, which left 14 people injured. Now, the government has previously said a megaquake has a roughly 70% probability of striking within the next 30 years. It could affect a large swath of the Pacific coastline of Japan and threaten an estimated 300,000 lives in the worst case scenario. But we all know the earthquakes that have happened in the past. January 1st, 7.6 size earthquake jolts, in the Noto Peninsula. 2011, 9 magnitude earthquake happens, and one in 1707. Till 2011, it was the previous one was in 1707 when Mount Full had last erupted. Anyways, the necessary arrangements are being done, and I hope that a megaquake does not happen in Japan. Before we go, I'd just like to end something that Ahson was saying. Neeraj Chopra's mother was being interviewed by a television channel, and when she was asked about Arshad Nadeem, she said he is also my son. That made a lot of people emotional, including myself. We are very simple people, whether in India or in Pakistan. But the fact is that unfortunately in India, the politicians do not want peace to happen in the region. But it is through simplistic comments like the mother of Neeraj Chopra that show that there is a lot of possibility for that to happen if the politicians and those in power in India want to do something. But for the moment, that doesn't seem to happen. Nevertheless, it emanated a lot of warmth and positivity. Last word from you, Ahson, before we go.
What a way to celebrate the Independence Day. A gold for Pakistan. Arshad Nadeem, thank you very much, and a very happy Independence Day to you and your family and everybody coming in 14th of August. We'll be making sure we'll be celebrating.
Yes, we still have a couple of days before that.
But he gave us the celebration right before the
My
celebration.
producer is saying we have to
Arshad Nadeem, thank you very much.
We have to end it. Ahson, my producer, is saying the next show is about to begin. Thank you very much to all of our viewers. This was a Friday. We just wanted to end on a very emotional note as far as Arshad Nadeem is concerned. We are all very proud of you, and we await you with our arms wide open as soon as you come to Pakistan. This brings us to the end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah on Monday when news stories segments that pertain to us here in Pakistan. Have a wonderful weekend. Allah Hafiz.